Sorry, guys. I didn't unmute us, so we'll start again. Steve here. I have Harry with me. I know that was belting that as well, Harry. You're doing really well.
Oh, thanks. I'll do it all. It'll all be rubbish this time.
I know, it's the nerves. The nerves are kicking in. So basically, this is episode 1 of Speak Friend. Hopefully, episode 2 will go a little bit smoother. But it's just a new live series where we're going to get people on the channel who are not part of the channel, and are big parts of the community and help with content and sort of getting the community together and keeping it going and keeping the momentum of the community. So Harry was one of the first people that I thought about, and also Stu, because they're both podcast creators. Stu is going to join us. He's just having a few issues with his mic. So as soon as he sorts that out, I'll click him back in. But yeah, so thanks for joining us, guys. Apologies for that. Won't happen again. Harry, would you like to introduce yourself for the second time and let people know who you are, what you do, about Entmoot, and about your role in the GBHL? Take 2.
Sure. So yeah, I'll take 2. I'll try and keep it smoother this time. So yeah, I'm Harry. I do the Entmoot Podcast. I've even bought the T-shirt, and I go off to tournaments usually and interview people, talk tournaments and games, and try in each episode to learn something and follow and progress in my Middle-earth strategy battle game journey. I'm not a particularly competitive gamer, but I suppose as the episodes have gone along, I do feel like I'm starting to hone my skills some way. And at the moment, I'm also the marketing officer for the Great British Hobbit League.
Ooh.
So I'm in charge of promoting the generally and doing things like this, I suppose, and encouraging people to head over towards the league and go to tournaments and events. So I guess the podcast came first, but actually it really helps me do my second role, which is quite nice. So I also do some YouTube videos and stuff occasionally, but nowhere near as many as Steve. So
awesome.
There we go. That's me.
So we now actually have Stu waiting in the green room, so I'll click him in.
And he's just bumped me into the middle. Look at that.
How you doing, Stu?
All right, can you hear me now?
Oh, this is far better. There's no lag. It's amazing. Welcome. Don't worry, we also had tech issues, Stu. I forgot to unmute all the mics. So me and Harry were talking for 10 minutes and no one could hear us.
I was just watching then and I couldn't hear Harry. I was wondering what was going on.
It was probably the best 10 minutes of content people are going to get all night, though, to be honest.
Best broadcasting you've ever done, that, Harry.
Yeah, I hope so.
So Harry's introduced himself, Stu. Do you want to let people know who you are, about Out of the Frying Pan, for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the last, I suppose it's been 6 months now, I've been host or one of hosts of Out of the Frying Pan. I'll say third, there's probably others out there, so forgive me, but the third Middle-earth strategy battle game podcast that's at least out regularly in iTunes anyway. I've been playing Middle-earth for just over 18 months now. Long-time wargamer, being host of another podcast called Geno 52 Podcast. If you check that out, it's not safe for work, so be careful with that one. And then I'm commission painter as well, so I'm very lucky that I commission paint for a living, so I get to paint toy soldiers. Yeah, so all round, my life's pretty much all about toy soldiers, apart from when it's about the kids.
So Stu has the life that all us gamers want.
I think it's more accurate than we probably think we want.
I still can't hear Harry. I don't know if that's
Oh, you can't hear Harry?
No.
That's a nightmare.
Oh, God.
That is a nightmare. I don't know what's going on. Are you on Be Live now, Stu?
I am. I'm on the app on my iPad, and you can hear me fine, so that's interesting.
And Harry, can you hear Stu?
I can hear Stu, yeah.
You just can't hear Harry?
No.
Oh, well.
Tech is crazy.
Wow.
Right, well, I'll tell you how this is going to work then. So
Tanya says she can hear all of us. I'm just looking at the thing, and people say that we can hear us. So, and also I can see Damien says my favourite tinned Heinz product is probably the barbecue beans or the 5 beans.
Oh, 5 beans! What's wrong with you?
No, I just watched it on catch up this morning and this afternoon. So.
Can we get subtitles for Harry? Does your tech do that?
Yeah, well, we might have to. So what we'll do then, if that's the case, then
I'm waiting to go live. Why am I waiting to go live when I should be going? I don't know.
No, I don't know. It's fine. I'll lead the chat, so I'll have to be the interpreter, so to speak, between you two.
Stu, why don't you stream live the YouTube on one channel on your phone while you listen back on catch up and have a very
I hope he's
delayed
being nice.
what I'm saying.
You can't say that about Stu, Harry.
You can't say it, exactly what I'm saying. So there's no point in giving advice. This is insanity.
Right, okay, so we've all said hello. We know who we all are. I think what we'll do, I'm going to jump in the chat. I'm just going to say a few hellos, see who's in. And then, yeah, we'll get on with it. So, in the chat this evening, there's quite a few in, actually. Thank you, guys. We have Steve Bonar asking why we're late. You can blame the fella who can't hear Harry, mentioning no names. Justin's in. How you doing, Justin? Tanya's in. Thank you for joining us, Tanya. I hope you make it to the end. Jay's in. My compadre from Top Table. Will Pintar's in. How you doing, Will? Fred Rich Schultz is in. Matthew Zamet's in. James Holding. Calamar. Michael Haskell. He's under some illusion, Michael. He said he's looking for some pearls of wisdom from us three. I think he's out of luck. We can't even get the sound on, Michael. Skullmunch, Sean's in. Damien's in. Welcome, buddy. Matt Prescott's in. Tim Cafferty, how you doing, pal? Quite a lot in. Alex Kaiser's in. Geis is in. Gamer Addict Frank. Mikey Jenkins, how you doing? Okay, so thank you all for joining us. Go on, Harry. It's all right. Go on.
I was just going to say, Stu might have a solution. He sent us a message in our little group chat to try and sort the audio out. We might be on different things.
Okay. Are you able to talk that? Did you say, Stu?
I don't know whether you have to or he has to.
No, that wouldn't be from my end. That's just
sorry
an observation
to Alex
from
as
someone
well.
listening.
Apparently, I've got the name.
You two are on a different ear to me, so I don't know if that's something.
All right. Okay.
Something that's on one of your settings, your end.
I don't know. The thing is, this is the same settings that I use for every stream. I've not changed anything. The common denominator here, Stu, is you and your soundboard.
It's me, yeah. I'm not even using it now.
We'll make it work, guys. We'll make it work. So, I did put a few posts out, and people were asking questions. So I'll get to those in a minute. One thing I think I'll ask the two of you. I'll start with you, Harry.
Okay.
The lockdown at the minute. I know you're still working. You're up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You've told me 10 times already.
Sorry.
I don't miss those alarm calls. How are you finding lockdown? Are you finding it's being a positive impact on your hobby time, a negative impact?
Well, I think probably positive. But I've found myself less inclined to, I suppose, rush things.
Yes.
I'm very much, I mean, because I do the podcast, I'm often going to tournaments, and I try as often as I possibly can to do a new army for each tournament. I know it's not always possible. There's only so many armies I can do, but I try. So I feel like actually I've spent more time doing. Taking care over some things, which has been quite nice. Because I don't think it's changed the amount of time I spend painting or doing other stuff for that matter, other than actually not editing as much audio. So that's been quite good, I suppose. But it has allowed me to do a big project, which is something that I don't often do. The last time I did a big project would have been last year for Seven Stones, going to Damien Tom's tournament for the SPG magazine. Shout out to them. And I assume incoming 100th Palantir episode. Basically, I've decided to do like a terrain board, which I will reveal at some point, but I've been working on a castle, and I've videoed each step of the way and time-lapsing it and stuff. I'm not a particularly good terrain builder, certainly not on the scale or speed or quality of the stuff that you've been making, Steve, but I've decided to do it, and I thought it'd be fun to do it, but it's taken a long time to do it, and my God, does it take a lot of footage on and space on my hard drive. I've got a terabyte hard drive here, and it's just full of hours and hours of me gluing lollipop sticks together and stuff. So that's been an absolute nightmare. And I've been like stressing out about how much space I've got on my hard drive, which is weird. But other than that, it's been good. Yeah, I've done loads of stuff. I've painted a Kirathungal army. I've finally finished it actually this afternoon. I finished the last model, which, hold on, is... here, I don't know whether you can see that. This is...
yes, go bag.
Focusing.
I've got go bag ready to go also.
So yeah, that's... Sorry, I dropped my headphones, so I have no idea if you're saying anything. That's my little gore bag. Oh, you've done one as well?
Yeah, same shield.
Same shield, yeah. I've press molded a few. And I also, because I had 2 versions of Shagrat, I didn't have the old one, I've made myself a Shagrat war leader with a big, massive shield on it, which is a bit clownish.
Yeah.
I can't get it right in this space. But then I've chopped the mithril coat out and given him a sword. And I've got the other one with the mithril jacket up there as well. So yeah, I've enjoyed it. It's been quite productive generally.
Cool. How about you, Stu? How have you found... I suppose it's not made a massive difference to you, has it really?
Work-wise, it has a bit, because my wife's off as well. So she's working from home a bit, not as much as she would have been, and I'm trying to work from home. And then I've got a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old at home that would have been at nursery or in school. So that's where it's kind of changed things a little bit. So I'm a little bit behind on my work, but in terms of what I would normally do in a week, I'm not leaving the house an awful lot less than I would normally. Working from home tends to do that, but it's more about the changing in routines and time, and not having that kind of... I quite enjoyed it when everyone else was off, when I was at home on my own working at home. It's quite a different experience when you're working at home and everyone else is at home, especially when you've got kids coming up every few minutes and sort of knocking on the door and stuff. But it's also really nice. I've spent a lot of positives of it. The weather's been good.
The weather's been great,
I've gone out for a family walk every day, and it's been nice. It's been something we wouldn't normally do. Would be too busy, and you find excuses to not do stuff like that. And I hope we don't change that too much when things start to get back to normal, because it's quite a nice thing to do, to make sure you spend time doing that. Going out for a walk after dinner has been really good. So swings and roundabouts with it, really. I've not lost any work yet from a positive point of view. So yeah, it's okay. I stocked up on paint just before things really locked down. I kind of could see it coming, so I did a big order from the local game store, and so I'm all right at the moment. If the things to go on in a few more months, I'm sure that things would affect me more, because I imagine my clients might be hit financially, and they might I might be able to get hold of the supplies I need to work, and then things will start to be different. But in the short term, it's been okay. I've not had any more holiday time. I'm jealous of all the people painting their own stuff because they've got nothing else to do, kind of thing. Because of no, well, you're sneaking off to you. What are you doing tonight then? What you said you're doing? Doing some DIY.
She knows tonight. She knows that I come clean tonight. I come clean. But yeah,
Stu, I mean, I don't know whether you can actually hear me yet, Stu. But have you tried painting outside yet? Because I tried that the other day, and it was an absolute nightmare. It was really hot, and it dried my paints out really quickly. But I thought it's too good an opportunity not to. The light, amazing.
Yeah, Harry was just saying, Stu, I don't know if you still can't hear him.
I can't hear him at all. I'm looking forward to watching this back and finding out what Harry said.
he was saying, have you tried painting outside?
I just bad mouthing you constantly.
No, that wouldn't work anyway. Paints would dry far too quick, even with a wet palette.
That's
horrible.
Exactly what he said. Yeah, he said that was the problem we had.
I said it was too mushy to try. Yeah.
I'm obviously I'm at home far more than I normally am. I'm not doing stuff for myself because of my job, and because it kind of come to a halt, and I got screwed as far as being helped out by the government. I had to offer I kind of sold myself in the community, but I've got about 3 weeks worth of work, so I'm all right for about 3 weeks, I reckon. The thing that I'm finding now, which you've probably seen all over Facebook, is I'm getting fatigue from painting that I never normally got. So I'm getting to the point where it starts to feel a bit like a chore, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm trying to break it up with making boards. I've just finished the Asciliath, and it's working quite well at the minute, because whilst I'm doing the terrain stuff, I'm thinking about the painting stuff and what I need to do next, what I'm going to undercoat next, what colours I'm going to go with next, whether I'm going to highlight this way or that way. And then whilst I'm painting, I'm thinking about the terrain stuff. So I'm constantly preoccupied with having the two things on the go at the same time. Seems to be working well for me. So, yeah.
So have you found then that it's making you not want to paint your own miniatures, or is it just because you're just general fatigue, so you want to but you can't face painting it?
It's just time, just time. But to be honest, I'm in a weird position because of the YouTube channel, because we do a lot of battle reports. A lot of the stuff I paint isn't necessarily for me anyway. Even though they're my models and they're going on my shelf, I'm not painting the stuff that I want to paint next. I'm painting the stuff that we need to paint next. That makes sense. So
yeah,
the commission stuff, it kind of feels the same. The only difference is I've got to wrap it up in a box and post it off when it's finished. But I've kind of sort of made peace with that in my head by seeing it as getting to hone my skills a little bit better and get better at things that I want to be better at. And yeah, it's working all right at the moment. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I suppose it's the same as if you're trying to paint an army or something desperately for that tournament that's rumbling down the road. It's the same, isn't it? You kind of you know you have to paint it because you sent in a list, or you know what you're doing. So, and I think there's probably a lot of people out there who are feeling the same about it at the moment, that there's no deadline because we have no idea when we're actually going to be able to play with these guys yet again. So you kind of feel I could take a bit more time. That's what I've been doing with this Kira's Uncle army.
Yeah, I was like that today because I dropped the. Obviously, I need the room, so the Skillif board was finished. So I had to drop the van off this morning because the van needed to go in for an MOT and some other bits doing at the garage. So I dropped that off. Got up really early so I could go to Stockport and drop the board off at the studio. And I put it in the studio and looked at it and I thought, I cannot wait to play on that board. I just don't know when that will be.
I can see now Stu is deciding to take things into his own hands and work out if he can stream the audio.
He's going rogue. I know what he's doing. He's getting YouTube on his phone in one ear. Which is great because he'll be able to hear what you can say, but there will be a delay because YouTube has a delay. But at least he can hear what you're saying.
It'll be better than not hearing what you're saying at all.
Yeah. So you'll have to watch the screen to see if he's talking, and when you see his mouth moving, then listen.
15 seconds later,
so we end up with a delay, which is what we had to start with when we started playing around with all this setup.
Oh well, this is all good.
It's what people tune in for, mate. It's what people tune in for.
Yeah.
Right.
Technical
okay.
prowess.
Let's have a look at some of these questions. So, Mr. Tim Elwes, I'm not sure if he's in the chat. I've not seen his name pop up. He posted.
Tim, he's a Lincoln lad.
Is he? Okay.
Hello, Tim. Go around.
Yeah, he posted a really good question, actually. Really in-depth question. There's quite a lot of facets to it. So I'm going to jump in. I'll throw it to you first, Stu, because there's like 3 parts to this question. So Tim says, it's ace that the Middle-earth SBG scene is so vibrant. He says, with events selling out in 2 or even 1 day, how do you go about making sure there is a progression of new, casual, semi-serious, competitive players and keep the momentum? And that everyone who wants to get to an event has a fair chance of getting to an event. So how do you tackle that hurdle as because you're running an event now, right, Stu?
Yeah. Well, it's a postponed one that's moved to October.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can tackle it directly. Really, it's there's a lot of events out there.
Yeah.
If they sell out quickly, that's a good thing. That should hopefully give people the confidence that there's space to run theirs as well. That's the only thing I can say is it is frustrating if you want to get to a certain event and you can't do it. There's lots local to us, so there's I'm in Gloucester, and there's events that I'm running in Cheltenham. There's down in Bristol in a club there, and big, and there's a place in Worcester. There tends to be a fair few. Yeah. It's the big key named events that maybe run out really, really quickly. So I would never be scared that I could get tickets for an event if I wanted to go to an event. The biggest challenge would be a certain event. So do you want to get there in time to get your Throne of Skulls ticket, that kind of thing. Yeah. I think generally you can get to events, but there might be those big key ones. And then people are limited by the space they have and the money they have in order to put these events on. You can hire big halls, but they're very expensive, and then you need a lot of scenery and a lot of tables. So it's no one easy answer other than be happy that the community's vibrant. There's more and more events growing, and you should see that engage more and more and more. I know sort of Harry will talk about this with his stuff with the GBHL. So you've got a lot of competitive events on there. Maybe we need to make sure that there's a big calendar out there for the non-GBHL scoring ones as well, because I think there's loads and loads of those, and maybe there's a lot more out there that people realise. So make it more visible on a national level. I think people will travel a bit further. So people might not have heard of mine and listen to my podcast, or they happen to see a post in GBHL. And GBHL is such a busy group. Yeah. You see the top few posts and things. It's very easy to miss 90% of the stuff that's in there. So maybe I'm not trying not to volunteer myself for this, but maybe we need some kind of calendar that shows all the non-scoring GBHL ones as well, because maybe there are a lot more out there.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one though, because I've spoken to Tim about this. Like I say, he's local to my area, and he came to my tournament last year, and he's part of the Slow Grow League that I've been running, and I've kind of got him hooked into the tournament scene in a way, which is cool because he's obviously keen. And the GBHL is a weird one though, because the events, you have to advertise a week in advance to be part of the calendar, the sort of the competitive part of the league. There are, as you say, Stu, there are loads and loads of other events going on. It's just hard to keep track of them. The great thing about the calendar is that it's sort of a fixed thing and it will be there. So you know that there's stuff. But the problem is knowing when those tickets are going to go on sale. And even if you've got a 7-day advantage of knowing, in 7 days that's going to be on, there's no guarantee that you're going to get them as soon as they are. Because Steve's sold out in a week, less than a week, wasn't it? It was only a couple of days, 24, 48 hours, something like that.
It sold 70 tickets in 2 days, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then
the
last 20, a few days after that, it was crazy. The only thing you can do, I think, as tournament organisers, is let people know that the tickets are about to go on sale, like give a week's notice. That's as much as we can do. And we spoke briefly off camera prior to this about reserving spots and things like that, which is great. And I used to always reserve spots, but you open yourself up as a tournament organizer, especially if it's a bigger event, and you've paid for the venue, you've paid for prizes, you open yourself up to be hitting the pocket, because people don't know. And nobody does it on purpose like that. That's totally understandable. But people don't know what's going to happen. So if they say, can you reserve me a ticket? And they've still not paid a week out, and then you've got to be, like you said, Harry, you've got to be that guy chasing for the ticket, and they only let you know then that they can't make it. It's sad that they can't make it, but it also affects the numbers. So you might have had even numbers. So then you've got to find a ringer. It affects the cash flow. It's tough. It is very tough. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say this year I was particularly militant about it because my event sold out very quickly as well. It's much smaller than yours, so it naturally would have sold out much quicker if it was going to sell out at all. But I decided to do good versus evil, where half of the people coming are good, half the people are evil. So I needed it to be absolutely balanced, and I didn't want to have it faffing around when people couldn't come at the last minute and someone replacing them had a different army or whatever. But it's tricky because I immediately wanted, as soon as it sold out, to allow people who are on the reserve list, like Ben from Top Table Gaming. He's on the reserve list because he was too slow by like an hour or two. And it's a shame, but I can't make the hole bigger. That's the thing.
Yeah, in the Manchester, like there's a few of us in a Facebook group, like Manchester players, and we were talking about your event, and it was Will Pintar who's in the chat. He said, yeah, I'm going. Colm's going, and I think he said Steve Thorley might be going. Is it? But there's a couple of them, and I think there was 4 of them. And that was because I messaged you, didn't I? And I was like on the fence about whether I could do it. And
you did. Yeah.
I knew them when I found out them 4 were going. I was like, sorry, I'm going. But there's quite a lot of us now. I think there's 6 of us coming up from Manchester. Yeah. Ben's on the reserve list.
And that's the thing that I mentioned before we came on. There's a guy called David who him and his 6 mates are coming down from Cumbria. So there's 7 of them, 5 of you. I mean, you're already well on the way, and that's just with 2 groups of friends. So I can see how if you're someone who, like I started getting in the community by just being me on my own, finding a tournament.
Yeah.
If you're that person somewhere, it will probably be quite difficult for you to get in because
Yeah.
you haven't got a network of people saying, "Oh, look, the tickets for this are on sale. Now go, let's all get in," or even have someone go, "Oh, I've bought us all tickets for this.
Yeah.
Let's all go." So yeah, I feel for Tim in that sense, but hopefully the popularity means that more people are willing to put tournaments on, which would mean that there'll be more space for them somewhere. If I'm definitely toying with the idea of putting a second event on next year, or certainly making it bigger if I can.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want people to miss out.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to say to you.
More expensive place to host it and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, now as soon as you start getting a reserve list for your event, I think that it did with me anyway, you must automatically start thinking, next year maybe I could get a bigger venue and get more people in. And obviously the more people that go to your event, the more popular your event is, because that's what happened with Scouring. Scouring snowballed. It just snowballed. Scouring started out in a local church hall. I think it had 46 people for the first one. But I had that USP. I had that unique selling point of the boards, which I think helped massively. And then all of a sudden it kind of became something that I didn't expect it to become.
Well, now you're top table Steve. That's the thing. People want to come to your tournament because it's true. You laugh, but it does help. The fact that all of us have some sort of platform that people watch, that you go, "Oh, look, I've heard that on the podcast. I've heard that on the YouTube channel." So maybe that's the reason ours are selling out rather than when other people's perhaps don't. I don't know, just because we have a.
I think it definitely helps.
Already.
It definitely helps, like us having the platforms that we have to be able to sort of scream it from the rooftops constantly. But at the same time, I know yourself, your podcast is predominantly about you going to other people's events and promoting them events for the following year or whatever, because it all helps. When we do the Middle Earth Live, me and Ben, we tend to try it, but not now because everything's on hold, but we tend to look a month ahead at the events at some point within the live stream and say there's an event on such and such place, it's run by blah blah, it's this many points, it's just to try and give people that leg up, because if all the other events do well, we're all going to do well.
Yeah,
if you think about it in a selfish manner, all you're going to end up doing is hurting yourself in the long run, because we all need to, as TOs, we all need to work together and help each other and promote each other as best we can, really.
Ali and Matt in the stream, I know you've not done questions yet, but they're both saying there are a lot of events on the GBHR calendar that don't sell out. And I think maybe it's just a matter of, if you haven't heard of something on a podcast or mentioned in something that maybe you're less likely to go, but actually, I love going to something new, get a new venue, new people. I was really looking forward to this one that's been cancelled down in Birmingham. I can't remember what it's called now. It was the Battle of by Walsall.
Oh, yeah.
I was really looking forward to, and it was cancelled. Sadly, that's what I was going to take the Kirit Ungol army to. But I've never been there before. Didn't have a clue who the organizer was, but I saw a couple of familiar faces there. But mostly it'd be new people, which is what I love about this. The hobby really is going off to new places.
Yeah, and I think all I could say to other TOs who maybe don't sell the amount of tickets that they want to sell, all I could say is promote. If you feel odd about constantly pushing your event, don't, because just look at me, you'll never be as bad as me. And secondly, if you don't want to do it, give us a shout out at Top Table, give one of the GBHL lads a shout out, give yourself a shout out, give Stu a shout out, and say, look, do you mind mentioning my event on your podcast? Or I know from my point of view, I haven't got a problem doing that whatsoever.
No way, yeah, absolutely. We're all, and none of us are in this for self promotion. I don't think. Maybe you are, Steve.
Get out of it. I just haven't got any mates.
But I'm more than happy to promote your events.
But yeah, so anyone who is listening who who thinks that I haven't got that platform, just reach out. I'll help, but these guys will help as much as we can. And again, I think most of the GBHL admins will be fine about posting little links up to your events and stuff if you don't want to do it personally. I'd be fine doing it. But that's a really good question, and there's kind of some follow-ons to it. So part 2 of it is, he says, it says that there is a seasoned group of well-polished players, but is it time that there is a dedicated B division or rookie tournaments, which you touched on, Stu? which would make those who frequently find themselves on the reserve list get a higher priority in getting to a ranking event. This, from your point of view, being part of the GBHL committee, if you like, is a hard one to. It'd be hard to organise that, right? I can't imagine how that would happen.
God. I mean, my responsibility in the league is basically that I write a big long screed of information about stuff that's coming up and try and promote it in any way I can.
Yeah.
Doing some kind of B division, I think sounds like a cool idea, but I know that a lot of people put a lot of time into just organising the normal league.
Yeah.
So it might be very difficult. It might not.
Yeah.
But I don't. Even some sort of secondary league would be an interesting idea, and I can't see why people wouldn't dislike it. But equally, it would take someone spending a lot of time doing it, and it takes a lot of time behind the scenes doing the other one.
You couldn't necessarily say to someone who is a seasoned player, "Oh, I know you want to come to this event, but you'll have to hold off because I need to see if some of the rookies want to come, or you're too." There's no way to be able to do that, and
no.
I don't think most people don't realise how much organising goes into the league. It's a lot. It baffles me half the time. Baffles me that much. I forgot to announce my give the committee my rules pack a week before putting my tickets on sale. I didn't read it properly, but it's tough. It is, in an ideal world, that'd be great, but I can't see how that could be.
I think ultimately the answer for Tim and anyone else who feels like they want to come along to an event and the ones that they want to go to are selling out, I would advise embedding yourself into the league and the Facebook page, because you will know and see more of what's going on if you become obsessed with it, as I have. But also seek out the events that are smaller and are more local and are less advertised, and you will find a tournament. And just because it's not a huge 100+ tournament at Manchester or Ardacon or Throne of Skulls or something, doesn't mean it's not going to be fun. And in fact, sometimes it's the opposite. You will make better friends at the smaller ones, because you'll be meeting people that you've never met, and you'll be having to spend more time with them, and it'd be more fun. I think that's how I've gotten friendly with loads of different people in the league. So
yeah, well, that's it. That's it exactly. I mean, was it 3? Well, it was a bit longer than that. I'm a bit long in the tooth. I'm doing myself a favour. Probably 5 years ago, before I was doing YouTube, before I was doing any of that, all that malarkey, I was just going to the odd event. I learned how to play the game properly by going to events. When I went to my first Throne of Skulls, I didn't know the rules fully. I learned how to play. I made loads of friends who Ben, Jay, Damien, yourself. I didn't know you guys outside this community, and now we're pals, and that's what you need to do. Like you say, you do need to throw yourself into the social media, into the Facebook group, get to know people, chat to people. And there is actually, not a lot of people know, if you go to the pin post, there is a calendar for what's coming up in the year. Everything's got a date. Look for your local area, and even if the tickets aren't on sale, reach out to the TO and say, look, I really want to come to this. Do you have an idea when the tickets are going to go on sale? Can you put my name down? As you know, just to give me a heads up. And they'll do it. Most guys are all right. They'll do it. It's fine. But you can, the other thing is as well, the 80-point events were kind of going to be the sort of the B league, if you want. That was the intention. The more sort of fun, less competitive. But the problem is now, a lot of the 80-point events, like Seven Stones, have got that good a reputation. Everyone wants to go to them as well. So it is tough. It is tough. I do sympathise with people who can't get tickets, but everybody's in the same boat, and it is unfortunately like first come, first serve.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that? Can you still not hear Harry, Stu?
No, I can't hear Harry, and I can't see you, so it's the most bizarre conversations going on.
Can you see Harry?
I can see Harry, but that's it.
You're going to have to.
So Harry needs to hold up signs, and then.
But it's like see no hear, it's no evil.
I don't know what Harry said there at all, but I can imagine it would be almost impossible to do anything like that, because it would mean the GBHL would need to take over almost total control of all the events, wouldn't it? It'd be so centralised. It wouldn't leave any freedoms left over to the individual TOs to kind of make their events what they want.
No. I think it is just a case of if you're running a non-league event. We're running a few. Well, we were down to run a couple of non-league events. We had our free event, which we had booked in, and everything was going honky dory till the coronavirus hit. And again, it wasn't a league event, but we promoted the hell out of it. People just need to promote the hell. Don't be shy about posting on the. Part of the reason for that GBHL page when it first started, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, if Daniel or Sam are in the chat, I don't know if they are, was to promote events. That's what it was there for. To get it out there and get everybody aware that there was events going on. So promote the hell out of it. That's what it's there for.
And it's also
absolutely. Sorry, Harry's talking now.
No, it's all right.
Flotsam and Jetsam isn't a GBHL event, and it was sort of set up in the middle of the year. It was too late, but I've got no intentions of making it, and that's not because there's anything wrong with it. But there's enough people doing those events. There's enough space out there for something different. So I'm happy to keep it separate from that. It means I get a bit more control over it, about the timings and what I do. I'm running it through a store, so I sell the tickets through there.
Yeah.
So I don't have to, I can liaise with just one person about where it goes. So there will be a lot more events like that out there. I just think, as I said, people need to share them more. People are welcome to join our podcast group and share them in there, share away all their stuff, to be honest with you, as long as it's not another web store that goes against our sponsor, which I won't mention because I know you're sponsored by someone else, but as long as it's not it's Incon Gaming in Cheltenham, but as long as it's not people aren't promoting their other web stores in there with special deals, everything else is fair game, as long as it's miniature war gaming related, that is.
It is a case of just like I keep saying, self-promotion.
Absolutely.
That's how you get them out there. It's the only way. No one's going to do it for you unless you ask. If you ask for help, you'll get it. But no one's going to do it for you. Third and final part of Tim's question, and then we'll jump into the chat. He'd be interested to hear how we keep the interest or momentum going while retaining the fun and the fluff. Do you want to jump in there first?
Do you mean tournaments? Or?
Yeah, tournaments.
So we're still talking about events here. So, I think a lot of that depends how you do it. So if we're studying match play scenarios, they are still the core of it. So a lot of your fluff is down to the players there to build fluffy armies and keep theme in their hobby alongside that. I mean, if you're not running match play scenarios, then you can build that in with custom scenarios and go where you want with it really there. You can do extra things. You can do, lots of people do side quests. I mean, Harry's doing interesting sort of 2-day format where he's the leader for the first day isn't available on the second day, etc. So there's the rules packs out there are wildly different, to be honest with you. It's not all sort of standard 600 or 700 or 800 points match play. There's people do add stuff, even in some of the bigger events. So I've not been to, but Damien's Seven Stones is an 80 pointer, isn't it? And that's loads of interesting different ways of running the event. So just don't be frightened to be different.
Yeah.
And I've put some city side quests in mine that don't actually affect the overall winners, but they're good. You can win spot prizes for being, they're just stolen from Foul Charge Games, and they use their events in New Zealand. But momentous moments. If you first model to fall from dying in the event gets a spot prize. So you can do lots of fun stuff. That's not particularly themey, maybe, but. Just it's how you set up the event and how you want to build into it really, but a lot of that is down to the players as well, and about the way they choose their armies and the way they model and paint their armies and their own ethos and what they bring to the event. So that's half of it.
Aren't they?
No
one's the same.
People want different things from the events as well.
It's
really difficult. Some people want all customs, all narrative scenarios, and some people don't want anything messing around. They want to see who's the best player at the table. So you've got to go to the middle of the road sometimes and either go full kind of theme and fluff and make your event very, very different and really, really stand out, or you kind of try to cater for a few different styles and hopefully everyone goes home happy.
Yeah. What about you, Harry?
To keep theme and fluff, I mean, it's interesting because as Stu was just saying, that it's largely down to the players in many ways, because I'm almost loath to try and force fluff on people too much, because I think some people just love building a list that will win a tournament, and and that's absolutely fine. I'm not that guy, but equally, I don't have a problem with people wanting to do it. So the way I've encouraged it is just by going, right, okay, this is a good versus evil tournament. There's going to be good people. There's going to be evil teams, and therefore you have a little bit of that thematic matchups. And like Stu said, prizes for different things, whether that's the best army, the best themed army, all that sort of stuff. Those sorts of things encourage it. But I don't think you need to sacrifice competitiveness to be a fluffy tournament, because you can still encourage people to do things, and the rules are so good now at encouraging competitive fluffy armies that I don't think it's really as much of an issue as it perhaps was in the Hobbit era, where you could mix and match forces, that made absolutely no sense. So I don't think it's an issue as much as it perhaps was.
No, I don't think it's an issue. The way I was going to say the way I deal with it, I don't deal with it. I don't get involved with it. I put my event on, and I tend to find that around 75 to 80% of people are there to have a fun weekend, play with the armies that they've put a lot of time into painting. They're very thematic. They've built up storylines behind them, or whatever. They've come for the painting. They've come for other things. And then you've got the 20-25% who want to win the tournament, and that's fine, because what tends to happen is you have your top 10 tables with those guys on, and then the rest of the hall is party time, and you just let each different type of player have the weekend that they want to have, and it's fine, because the really fluffy players tend to not really, they don't go there to win, because if they go to a big event, they know that if they bring a fluffy army, it's unlikely they're going to do well, because it's going to have the top players there with maximised armies. And yeah, I don't really think it's an issue.
I think most people understand that there's only going to be one winner anyway, so
it's fine.
I'm intrigued. Stu, what are you painting? Are you painting a commission? I know you can't hear me, but
Stu, Harry's just asking that he's like to know what you're painting.
I'm painting a Hobbit that for my battle company.
All right.
So
okay.
Wanderers in a Wild battle company, and he's a bit of a conversion from Plastic Sam from the Fellowship.
Oh yes.
With a stone hand. I don't know if it's Pippin or Merry that's thrown the stone from the same set, and a different head swapped over.
Steve
and I've green
find something,
or green stuffed on a sort of a hood over.
Yeah.
And he's got some extra little bits. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Cool.
Nice.
While we're on about your painting, Stu, Michael Haskell has asked in the chat. There's loads of chat going on, so I am gonna sort of cherry pick stuff. But if you see anything, Harry, or you see anything in the chat, Stu, that you think is relevant and you want to pull out the chat and discuss, feel free just to butt in and let me know. But Michael Haskell asks you, Stu, what tips do you give for keeping painting motivation?
Especially commission painting.
I never have any issues with it, and that's one of the reasons why I asked you earlier about how you were finding it. Now you're doing a bit of commission painting. Before I started doing it full time, I was really worried that I would sort of lose the sort of the will to do my own stuff. And I hear a lot of people start working in the industry, and they stop playing games, and they start sort of moving away from it as their own hobby. And if anything, I want to paint my own stuff as much as anything. If any, I get frustrated when I can't, because I feel like I should be working. So sometimes in an evening, I'll have work on the desk and I'll pick it up, and I shouldn't do it, but I'll pick it up and do that rather than my own. So personally, I've never had any issues. But painting for a target is the way to go usually. Whether that doesn't have to be an event, but events help. But even if it's just a case of what game do I want to play next, what army do I want to use, what unit, what hero. And painting something so there's a purpose to it, so give yourself a deadline, or just pick up something you really, really want to do. If you're in a bit of a funk and you're looking at 100 model horde army and you can't do it, there's no point in forcing yourself to do it if you're not enjoying it. It's a hobby after all. You shouldn't give you any stress. Pick up something you really want to do, and sometimes just breaking, you kind of break the block a little bit.
I think that's like what I was saying to you with the boards. It was breaking up the painting a little bit. It was nice just to get away from the painting desk, do a bit of terrain, and then go back to the painting desk refreshed.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't usually build loads of terrain. I built lots for Flotsam and Jetsam recently, and that was a nice break.
Yeah, Harry's trying to inject.
Do you enjoy? I'm intrigued, Stu. I know we'll have to go via a third party, but do you actually enjoy painting other people's miniatures? Because you sort of implied there that the way that you kind of always wanting to paint your own miniatures means that you might not be as keen on painting your commissions. I guess it's work, but equally.
Harry's just asking, do you enjoy painting your commissions as much as you enjoy painting your own stuff, with it being work and not hobby?
Not all of it. not all of it. Depends what I'm painting. Some things really aren't very fun. If you think of all the bits you dislike about your own hobby, whether some people hate building stuff, and when you get 100 model commissions plonked on your table, you've got to build it all or something, it can be it can be a bit kind of so it really depends, and it's not always the same things. So some things you might haven't painted something for ages and it's really interesting to paint. I'm working on a 40k Death Guard up in the army at the moment, and they're beautiful models, but God, are they complicated. There's so much going on there. There's no sub-assemblies. You can't help yourself out with painting. There's so many bits that just take time because they're so fiddly, and there's bits of it I enjoy. Other times it's kind of but I get to listen to podcasts, or I get to listen to music and watch Netflix when I'm working. I get say it's a lot better than some jobs. So I try to remind myself that when I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself about what I'm painting.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Justin has a question related to that as well. Might as well just ask him to read that straight off.
Which one, Harry?
Straight away, it says, what's your favourite kind of commission to get? One where the client says, have fun and do what you want, or something else?
A question from the chat, Stu, from Justin in Canada. He's asking, what's your favourite kind of commission? Is it kind of where someone gives you artistic license to do what you want, or the more scripted, this is what I want, A, B, C, kind of like that?
Really scripted can be a pain when it's to the point of I want this decal on this knee pad and this one on this knee pad, and I'm going to list them for all 100 legionaries and a heresy army. And you do get that, and that's what the client wants, that's what they'll get, but it does add a lot of time. So that can be a little bit kind of, you feel like you're not making progress, you're too busy following a list.
Yeah.
I do like it, when I like to work quite organically anyway. I'll be quite free when we're painting. I don't always go in with a full plan, so I quite like it when I can just sort of go with what looks right, but either works really.
Yeah.
Alistair's asked a similar thing.
My favourite is when I can really pick on something that's
value
a display piece, or I did a diorama last year for 40k, and it was great because I spent a week just building something that you would, I don't know, maybe enter into a competition. That's more interesting than painting a whole units after units after units.
What was that, Harry? Did someone ask how does he work out cost wise? Is it just an equation of how long you think it's going to take you, or is there do you work out a price list? I've been doing it off. When people ask me for a price list, I can't even say, well, what is it you want? Tell me what you want, and I'll in my head I'll sort of do a few quick sums on the time that's going to be involved, and I'll do it I'll price it that way. I find that's easier rather because the first one that I ever priced, I shot myself in the foot because I kind of priced per model, and it's took 4 or 5 times as long as I thought it would.
Yeah, both really. I do have some guidelines on my Facebook page. It's there for people to get an idea, but it's also there's a starting point for me, and you get better and better at that over time. But I'll still shoot myself in the foot now. You'll in your head you'll have, well, it'll take X amount of time. And then you get it, and then all it takes is a kind of, well, can you just add this bit or that bit? And sometimes you would charge more for extras. Other times you think, well, it's just a reasonable request. Unfortunately, it's just something that takes longer, so it is difficult. But it does boil down to time. I try to estimate my time, and that includes building. That's always something that I got wrong all the time when I first started, is not charging enough for the amount of time it takes to build stuff, because it often takes the same amount of time as it does to paint it.
Yeah, you spend a day building it.
It is difficult,
yeah. A lot of the chat is just going back to the discussion that we had about the league. You've got Alistair in. Welcome, Alistair. Just saying it's like really difficult to, the league coordinators do try their best to cater for everyone. There's a multitude of events, and what they're saying is there are a lot of events that sell out. So sympathies to the people who can't get to those, but on the same hand, there's a lot of events that haven't sold out. So there is events there. It's not like there's no events to get to. And it's a very true statement, to be fair. Samwise, welcome, pal. I've not seen you in the chat before, so welcome. He says, hi, guys. How do you guys go about sourcing terrain for your tournaments? My answer is fairly obvious, so I'll put it to you two.
Stu first.
You go first, Stu. You go first, Stu.
I've gone all mats with mine. I've only made 10 tables worth, so I've gone all mats. I quite like the finish on mat, but they are quite heavily themed. So it's not just the 4 pieces of terrain or 5 that you might see sort of scattered on, which I know you don't like, Steve. But I've used the right mix. I've used a mixture of the Yoskini. Basically, I've picked a theme for each table.
Mats can be awesome.
And then gone with it from there.
I don't have nothing against mats. I like mats. Mats can be awesome with awesome terrain on. It's
Yes.
it's just the generic. So sometimes you go to events, and you could play 40k on the table that you play Middle Earth on.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
It's one of the reasons why I've gone and got my own terrains, because the club aren't really set up to host large amounts of Middle Earth players, and we use even the AOS stuff. A lot of it's too much kind of AOS iconography on it.
Yeah.
So I just picked a theme, listed them all out, and did a mixture. There's some 3D printed stuff, so I've got some stuff from 3D Tabletop, Sean Creed's stuff. There's some old Battlefront stuff that I've used, and that's been changed. There's Osgiliath Ruins, there's Goblin Town, there's all kinds of different bits of bobs. So I stuck to a theme each time. I had a mat that matched it, and then made sure my paint palette then matched the rest of it.
Yeah.
Lots of XPS foam, lots of building stuff.
That's kind of how Scouring started. That's how Scouring started. There was only 1 or 2 custom boards. The rest of it was mats. I think at the time I had kind of some association. Basically, people could get discount for urban mats from the YouTube channel when I was doing it on my own. So they supplied a load of mats that I would then give away as prizes at the end of the event. And I'd just build modular terrain rather than what I do now, which is boards. But what about you, Harry? How have you found that sort of?
Having done it for the first time last year, I was told by a lot of people who are organising events, this is going to be the most difficult bit is making sure you have enough. And I was sort of warned against doing too big a tournament in the first instant because of exactly that. And I was lucky enough that Michael, who is in the chat, I've been to loads of tournaments and become good friends with Michael Haskell, who has a lot of terrain, and he I think he'd lent it to Damien, who's also for 7 Stones, and he just said, I just sort of said, have you got any terrain that I could borrow, because I know I'm going to be short by a couple of tables, and he was more than happy. He ended up providing about half, if not more, I think, in the end. I did make a few tables worth of stuff, but there's only so much you can make in a couple of months, I suppose. Yeah. And as you've said, you've built it over a period of time. But so this year I'll probably add a couple more of my own. Yeah. There is some stuff at my local gaming club. That's where I get a lot of the mats from. They've got enough mats to make it fine. There's some generic terrain, though, there was in the last one, but more kind of woodlands and hills and stuff. So I didn't feel too bad doing that. But the main thing was just borrowing it. And I think actually, I think it's something that not many people think immediately to do if they're running a tournament. There are almost certainly, if you're in going to be a GBHL event or even just generally a tournament, ask a few people who are coming, bring along. I think it's the War in Reading one.
Yes.
They have a thing every year that people bring along a certain number of boards, and there's some sort of prize for who brings the boards, and they enter them into a prize draw. So it's a really simple way of doing it. If you want people to get involved, bring a board or bring some terrain and offer them a free beer or a discount.
That's it. When you're starting out, you just beg, steal, and borrow, don't you? When you're starting out, that's you have to, because nobody, I think, starting out has enough terrain in their house. Well, I'm not saying nobody, because obviously there'll be some exceptions, but generally people don't have terrain to sort of dress 10, 15 boards in the house.
Yeah, he's just said exactly the same thing in the chat, by the way. He's just said offer tournament points or prizes for bringing terrain.
Yeah. For me, I make a lot of terrain, and we've got a lot of terrain that I've built over the years, and I'm lucky enough that we have the studio and I can store all my boards there, so I'm able to keep building and keep building and keep building and keep building. There is a board now. Have I moved the camera over there? That's the next one. That's as much as I'm going to give. But I'm excited about this one. I was excited about Osgiliath, and it turned out really well, so I'm excited about this one as well. I think this one's going to turn out really good.
I can't make it out on the camera. The quality is so low.
Yeah,
we'll have to just wait and see for the next video.
I did that on purpose, Harry. I did it on purpose. So if I jump back into the chat, I see a couple of you guys have had a shocking day. So I hope this puts a smile on your face. Watching us talking with no sound for 10 minutes probably did at the beginning. And seeing Harry and Stu try to communicate with no sound, that's great. Fail Charge Games has joined. Welcome. I think it's Tom, or it might be Sloan. Welcome, boys. I'm sure we'll be seeing you very, very soon. Where are we? Let's have a look. Stu, is your podcast on SoundCloud, says Justin. I have listened to pretty much every Entmoot episode and up to date on Green Dragon, but I can't find yours. I listen to yours on Spotify.
Yeah, it's not on SoundCloud. SoundCloud is hosting, so I'd have to re-upload it there. I used it for my other podcast, but it wasn't great. So it's hosted on Podbean, and then you can get on Spotify and Apple and most sort of independent RSS feed readers. Yeah. There's only a few places. There's a lot of the big hosts at the moment, isn't there? I remember one of our listeners early on really wanted us to have it on. I can't remember what it's called now, but there's a really big host like Podbean out there, and they use their app. But you only if you go to someone's home app, you're only ever going to get what podcast people host from there. Yeah. Whereas you go to a third party one, you can get anything. So
yeah.
I found the SoundCloud actually was a bad decision because I think if I'd hosted it somewhere else and then uploaded it via SoundCloud in the end, then you could have got it on more places for cheaper. But I was kind of tied in after having 10 episodes or however many it was, and then it goes, you've run out of space. Now you have to pay. And I was like, damn it.
It's like everything. Everything does that. Yeah.
Sorry?
I say everything does that, doesn't it? It gets you in with a load of shinies, and then you sign up to it, and it's like, right, okay, 6 months is over, now you need to pay us £100 a month.
Yeah, yeah. I was stung by that. But it's there now, and it's like I think I paid £60 for the year or something like that. So, and what? Who cares? You know, I'm not that bothered in the scheme of things.
You're a superstar now, mate.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know, but it's all right. It's all right. I think it's just nice to have it there, somewhere where it's consistent. I did toy with taking them all down and putting them somewhere else, but I don't think that's possible in the end.
No. I'm just having a look. Dan Collister's in. Is that your buddy off the podcast? Is it, Stu?
Yeah, that's one of my co-hosts. The other one, Sam.
How you doing,
he's in
Dan?
tonight. I think he's been.
It's good to have you in, and he's just letting Justin know where you are and how to get you. We might get you on next time. You might get better sound. You might be able to hear what we're saying. What I'll do, let's have a look. Oh yeah, that's Alistair King was talking about TPs. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so another question that we got on the post was from Chris Wildman. Now this is something that's pretty relevant to something that we at Top Table have got coming up as soon as the world gets back to some sort of normality. He says, I'd love to know how bustling the Battle Company scene is within the community, and if anyone knows of any events kicking off once the pandemic does one. Either way, love the game, and I can't wait to throw orcs at people. So Battle Companies, guys, obviously you've mentioned that you're painting for your Battle Company, Stu, so I think it's a given that you enjoy Battle Companies.
Not played it, so this this is part of starting something new, but we talked about it a lot on the podcast we put out a couple of days ago, so I won't go into too much detail, but we're repeating myself. But we're looking at, the three of us on the podcast are looking at playing it slightly differently. Yep. We've got a narrative gaming background from playing Heresy. So we're going to try and make it a bit of a bit more character based and a bit more maybe GM led games. Okay. So I was looking at hosting for the guys. Actually, we might going to take it turns during lockdown, set it up as a 2x2 board, get the webcam facing down, and basically the GM moves the models for the players, gets them to play, but then also have some NPCs there. And just write a sort of a custom scenario. Oh, cool. I like the idea of playing on little 2x2 boards and things. And it's not a criticism of the game, but I always thought it always felt strange to me. And I was saying this having not played it, that it came out on big 4x4 boards. It felt like they were missing the trick of all the other coffee table games that were brought out around the time. You got your kill teams and you've got your Necromundas and things like that. It would have maybe fell into that space quite nicely that people can use as a shorter pickup thing. Yeah. I think it's great as a match play game, and which the scenarios are set up as match play. But quite often leagues run out of steam when people can't get to them, can't get to enough games in, and then you get the imbalance in terms of the levels of the levels of the battle companies. Yeah. So we've just decided to go sort of very narrative based on it, and maybe if we get together, we'll probably do a campaign evening. So play a few things so we're all progressing at the same time, and then we get together a few months later. We might just start again with different ones. So turn it into a bit of a different kind of offshoot of the game. Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that sounds cool. What about yourself, Harry? You played much Battle Companies?
To be honest, I'm sort of in the same boat as Stu there, in the sense that any kind of league like that, I think people start with great intentions of wanting to join it early on and do loads of evenings, and they get really excited about it. But then, because of as he said, one person misses 1 week and another person misses the next week, you miss that game, and then some people have got more XP, and it can lose its balance. And I already struggle to get to regular weekly events as it is, so I know I'm going to be one of the ones who falls behind and lets people down and stuff like that. So I've struggled to find space for it. I love the idea, and I love mainly for the miniatures, if I'm honest, mainly for converting a little special guy, painting a model that I know I'm not going to use in something else for whatever reason, and it's quite nice to do that. I have slowly been building one up for a local Battle Companies league, but the only time that I've actually ever played it was at a tournament which I did a podcast about. It was World Champion Round 1. He had Battle Companies on the day 1, and then on day 2 he did like a tournament where you put the battle company you've got that's got some points value, and you put it into day 2's army and make a big cool army out of it. Really enjoyed that. And what I liked about it was that everyone was on the same page, everyone was together at the same stage. I think the only time it would work is really realistically is going to work is if you have a dedicated group of like friends who already play it, who live close together, who are able to play together on a regular basis. And I know there's a few guys in the Nottingham area who like Jay and Rules Rights and people like that, who all do play Battle Companies because of that they're quite live close together. They're friends. They've been friends for a long time, and they're all already embedded in the hobby, so they can do it a lot easier. Whereas I'm not convinced it's as much as people think Battle Companies is the way to start Middle-earth strategy battle game. I really don't think it is. I think it's a nice game to play if you're really into it and want to do something different. But I think actually it's much better to just do a slow grow. I think you get more enjoyment out of it, and I think it's a better game personally. Some people will disagree. Some people like RPGs more than I do. Yeah.
Everyone's up to Battle Companies is a game that from when they released the initial Battle Companies book, I really wanted to try, but never did for pretty much everything that you've just reeled off. I didn't want to get involved in a campaign locally because I've been in part of campaigns before that have just, crumbled, and you just put a lot of time and effort into them, and then all of a sudden it's not there, and you're like, well, I just wasted all this time. Things like that. And it's, but it is something that has always appealed to me. We ran a small Battle Companies event as part of our Weekender event last year, and it went really well. One day event. It's people. I think people have got to understand if you're playing a Battle Company, it's for fun. It's for a bit of a giggle. You can't take it too seriously. And I've played, and it goes nicely into. It's not a question that we got on a thing, but it's something I did just want to touch on. I don't want to drag it on because I know not everyone has bothered with it. But I have been playing Battle Companies for the first time whilst on lockdown via the Tabletop Simulator. Have either of you guys tried or have been enticed to try Tabletop Simulator? Start with Stu.
I've thought about it. My laptop isn't great, as we may have caused the problems early on.
Definitely caused the problems.
So I'm not quite sure how it would handle it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it definitely tempts me. It's moved on a lot, hasn't it, from what the online games like that were a few years ago. I couldn't believe the quality of the renders from the stuff you've painted. That was incredible. The pictures you posted up the other day. So that kind of made me think, oh, actually. But I don't know. I think if this was going to be a very, very, very long lockdown, if we were talking past the year kind of level, where before we could get together and do any kind of socialising and gaming, then I'd definitely look into it. I'd probably be buying a new laptop, to be honest with you. But we don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty confident that at least we'll be able to have friends round to play a game or something with it, even if we can't have events. So I imagine I'll find a way of playing some games. But if not, I'll give it a go. I'd be interested in watching it. I quite like watching stream games and stuff. I used to watch a lot of competitive War Machine streams and things. I can imagine sitting watching a stream of two people playing.
Yeah, it's something that I might be doing on the channel, but I need to be more fluent with it before I do something like that.
Yeah, because how do you find it?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It has its limitations. There's tons and tons of mods out there for Middle Earth, And the fella Spencer who lives in America, who basically I've been filming all my models on a turntable in high definition and just sending him the footage, and he is then able miraculously to turn them into 3D renders which just look astonishing. That's the reason. So I want to play with all my miniatures on a computer now. That's the thing. That's the thing. And if I'm totally honest, I probably would have never ever even tried it if we weren't locked down.
Yeah.
Because I would much prefer to be in the company of somebody else, playing with them, you know, having that bit of banter across the table, having a drink afterwards, blah blah blah. I much prefer that. But the situation we're in, it's forced me to try it, and it's better than I expected it to be. It's better than I expected. I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun. It's filling a gap that is there now because we can't get out. And also, after this, I don't think it'd be something that I play as frequently afterwards, but it means that I could possibly play someone who lives in Australia, someone who lives in New Zealand. I talk to these guys a lot about this game that we all love and we want to play, but I probably would never in my lifetime be able to play them. Like Lachlan, I'll probably never be able to play him in a game of SBG, whereas on tabletop I can. And yes, it's not the same, but it's as close as you're going to get. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd try. What do you think, Harry? What's your thoughts on it?
I've been slightly resistant, and I don't really know why I am. I haven't tried it. I know a couple of the local gamers. Tim, you mentioned earlier, has been asking a few good questions. Him and another guy in Lincoln have gotten really into it, and I think they're playing more games on this than they ever have together in real life. So, which is great. It's great. It's obviously satisfying their hobby needs. For me, I don't know. I like the game. I think the game is. I don't know. The game's almost a reason to encourage me to paint in some ways. To get me to do the bit that I actually mostly enjoy, and that's either painting models in anticipation of a tournament, or playing games with them.
Yes.
And beating someone and playing games with someone. The game, although I think it is by far the best tabletop game, it's somehow always been secondary. Although I like it a lot more now than I ever thought I would, and I'm more obsessed with the rules and stuff than I ever used to be. But so the idea of taking the two things that appeal to me most about Middle Earth Strategy Battle Game is painting models and the actual physicality of moving them around the tabletop, like, you know, in those old war movies where you have the big like croupier type thing where they're moving toy soldiers across tables. I love that idea of planning battles out and doing it in physical form, and I think I just missed that, and it would be stripped away. And I can't help but also wonder, if you're going to play a game on a computer, why not play like a really good quality real-time strategy game, like, I don't know, whatever the equivalent is now. I'm thinking like Age of Empires, which is 10 years ago is when I last played them. But I'm just not bothered by computer games anymore.
I'm not. I used to play console games many moons ago, and then up until earlier this year, I still had an Xbox. The only game I played on my Xbox was FIFA. I used to get FIFA when they came out, play football with my mates. And then I didn't play that much because this hobby took up all my spare time. So I got rid of that. But what I will say is, try it. It's not.
I should try it.
It's not a replacement by any stretch. I'm not gonna play less actual games because I now have Tabletop Simulator. It just means that I can play games where I may not have been able to play them. So if I'm at home in an evening and someone pops up and says, "Fancy jumping on Discord and having a game," you know, I'm at home. It's not like, you know, if I didn't plan to go to the gaming centre and play a game and I've got an hour spare, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
I played Matt Prescott, who's in the chat at Battle Companies, and I played Tom Glover, who's also, I don't think he's in the chat. The best part of playing them on TTS for me was the laughs we had whilst playing, just chatting and a bit of banter. Like I don't know if everyone plays the game like I do, but I'm either really annoying to people who play me, like in real life, or people really like playing me, because I like to have a chat when I'm playing. I like to talk to people. And I've played people where I can tell I'm getting on the nerves. But when you're doing it over Discord with someone you obviously know them, it's highly unlikely you're going to play someone that you don't know on TTS. So you're already pals with them. I would say just try it, mate. Just try it. We've got a server on Discord on Top Table. Jump on one night and have a go and see what you think.
Yeah, I will do. Damien's just said something similar. He just said, I spend my day looking at a screen for work and I like hobbies because it's on screens, hence TTS has absolutely no interest to me. It's essentially the opposite of why I like the hobby. I think he kind of sums it up. I do a lot of screen stuff and the idea of editing, looking at screens, finding news stories and then editing audio and typing out scripts and all that sort of stuff at work, and then coming home and playing more computer games. Kind of somehow I'm fine with watching films and stuff because that doesn't feel the same. But like, I like painting for exactly that reason because I'm looking at something that isn't blue light.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get people's things, but I was a bit. I thought it looks like it's not for me, but I tried it and I liked it. So I would say to anyone, give it a go and see what you think. That's all you can do. Give it a go. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But
yeah, I should give it a go. I should be open.
Yeah. So that's TTS. Do let us know in the chat anyone who is on TTS and plays. I think. Alistair said that he tried it. He didn't think it would work out, and he actually quite likes it. So that's a bonus.
One thing just before we move on, and the thing about the game is that it's so precise with measuring and all that, and the kind of tactics of moving stuff around it. Did you find that easy? I mean, I'm still not yet done it. Without
spending 20 minutes talking about how it works, the hardest thing for me on TTS was controlling the camera. And I've done a video on it, so check it out on the channel. Look back in our
it is in my to watch list.
TTS doesn't know the rules to SPG. It doesn't know the rules. It's a sandbox. It's basically a blank canvas where, as far as the game's concerned, you're just moving tokens around. But it has a I don't know what the word is, but it has it built in where when you pick your miniature up, so if you left click on your miniature, it picks him up. If you hold tab, as you're moving around, it tells you in inches how far you've moved him. So you could. It doesn't stop you at 6 inches. You've got but I can see. So if you were moving your miniature, I can also see how far you're moving him. So it's like real life. It's like real life. It's just it's not the same, and it's not a replacement for it. But it is fun if you can't play the games and you're missing playing games. It's fun. But yeah, it's all right. Try it, man.
Yeah,
I think you'll like it. I think you'll like it. I think you'll be hooked.
I'll give it. I'll try. I'm still skeptical.
Next thing you know, if you're running an event, TTS event. Okay, so Steve Bonar, who is a stalwart on TTG, joins on in all the chat, and he's in most of the live streams. He says, why do you personally paint? He's struggling with motivation, and painting his ZM walls, I think they're 3D printed, and tattooing buildings is about all he can take a brush to at the moment. I only paint as I believe play it painted is far better, even with just base colours and washes. What's your reason for painting? Harry, we'll start with you.
If I'm honest, I enjoy it. Some people started the hobby because they like playing games, and some people start the hobby because they like building toy soldiers and painting them. Yeah. If I'm honest, I've always been the latter one. So I started the game because I used to have, those little green toy soldiers that you used to get, the little ones. I had those as a kid, and when I saw on a car boot sale I think they were like Chaos Knights or something like that, when I was about 8 or 9, I basically saw these and thought, oh, this is cool. They're like the better version of those little things that I've always played with, but they're encouraging you to make them look more realistic by painting them, and I like the challenge of that, and I like the satisfaction of going, this is something that looks like those old toy soldiers that I used to play with as a kid, and turning that into something that looks like something out of my favorite movies. Yes. So to me, when people say, "Oh, how do you encourage yourself to paint?" I just I don't understand it. It doesn't work with me because ultimately, I've always enjoyed painting. I do struggle to get myself motivated to paint something sometimes, and sometimes you go through periods where you don't paint as much as other periods, but that's fine. I just Deadlines is good, but like the Kirith Ungol stuff, I've just been finishing. I think it was 20 or so Mordor Uruk-hai, and they all look exactly the same. They're all dark bluish armor and purple skin, and they're all pretty much the same. But you get bored of them, and that's fine. But I think the only way
I was like that with Mirkwood Elves.
The only thing I can do is say set yourself a deadline and paint stuff that you do enjoy. And if you're struggling to paint something that you really should or need to get painted for a tournament, or because you've got that last box of whatever to finish off a whole army, then I would just say set yourself a deadline and try and look at the light at the end of the tunnel as being a hero model. Or a monster that you really want to paint. It looks really cool, and that's what I've always done. So I always leave your heroes last, as I mentioned earlier. I've got my my converted shag rat, which I converted right at the start, and the gore bag.
That was your prize.
And I thought, right, if I do the, that was my prize. That was literally it. I finished him this afternoon after having finished painting 25, and it took me probably 3 weeks or 4 weeks, maybe more, 4 weeks from start to finish to paint the whole army of Cirith Ungol, Mordor Uruk-hai. But it's taken me 2 days to paint Shagrat and Thingy in there easily. Nicer. There's no way, but there's no doubt about it. I've put more care and effort and love into them. But that's just how I do it, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm very similar. I work in a similar way. I still have this thing for 12s. So if I'm painting like an army, I'll paint what used to be a warband, and for every warband that I paint, I'll paint a hero at the end of it as a treat to break the monotony. What about you, Stu? Not commission wise aside, painting for fun, for your own stuff. How do you motivate yourself to paint what you need to get painted? Or is it just kind of like muscle memory with you being a full-time painter, or?
No. I mean, I have to motivate myself like anyone else. It'll just be down to whatever army project that sort of either is needed for an event or for the next project, or most inspires me at the time. Sometimes those projects come along quicker than I have time for, so one might get bumped in terms of another one. But I love painting anyway. Painting's the most important part of the hobby for me.
Yeah,
always has been, which is a good thing because I'm not very good at playing games. So it gives me something that I'm okay at. So a lot of it's enjoyment, but then motivation-wise, I have to go at it like a machine when I do it. I've talked about this before, I think, on our podcast, is that I paint privately now like I do for work. So I will tend to buy a lot of the miniatures all in one go, rather than just adding units bit by bit. And I like to do it in massive batches. So when I did my Survivors of the Lake Town army, the 48 infantry, I did them all in one go.
Yeah.
So I broke them up into colour groups and used the airbrush as much as possible to save as much time as possible with the airbrush. Got them into those colour groups and then went and did all of one colour or the other. It's a bit of an OCD thing, but once I've completed a model, I hate to then go back to the same kind of model, so the same sculpt again, and do the same thing again a few months down the line. I really struggle to get going again. So I started Azog's Hunters / Legion army some point last year. I started doing it, then I added a few bits, then the FAQ came along, and then I did a different evil army, and now going back to it is really hard because some are at one stage, some are at another stage, and once I get going again I'll be fine, but restarting and getting myself back to the kind of, I'm in this stage, I'm in that stage, and that stage will be the key to get me going. So it's about all of it's about momentum. And then when you start getting to the end and you're nearly done, then that really pushes me on as well, because I love stepping back and looking at a finished project, whether it's painting a wall in a house or something. I quite enjoy that stage when you can relax when you complete something, have a beer or something, and think done.
Cool.
I'm exactly the same as you there. But I did an Uruk-hai Scout army. I basically bought a load of metal scouts ages ago, for no reason other than that they seemed like a good deal. And then I painted all of them and the heroes, all the Uruk-hai Scout heroes, not that long ago, at the start of January. So just after, and I was really happy with the paint job on everything. And then I sort of started tallying it up as an army and realised this is a really crap army, and it's not going to be like, it was a really low points army. I didn't have anywhere near enough Uruk-hai, had way too many heroes, and I realised I'm going to need another box of Uruk-hai Scouts to make this an actual feasible army. So I got the Scouts, and now they're there, and I'm not.
You just can't be bothered
for a long time because I just can't face going back to that leather again for now. Anyway, maybe when I'm inspired to do them for some reason in the future, I don't know. But
that's exactly I've got to do that exact problem. So I've painted probably 2 warbands of Uruk Scouts, but what I need more. And I've got the Ammenhen set with the metals in, and I've got some plastics to go, and they've been ready to go for about 3 weeks. but the thought of that leather again, the browns again, it's just I keep just putting things in front of them. But I'm also like Stu in the sense that if I'm painting a lot of miniatures, I pick out the poses and I paint all the same pose in one hit, because what I find with that is sometimes we all probably do it. Yeah, or at Scouts. They look cool, man. They're awesome sculpts.
I can't get it right. I can't get him in the middle. There he is.
Yeah, he looks cool.
But yeah.
He's
it's
when you
brown,
paint,
it's just only brown, isn't it?
Yeah, when you're painting the same pose, we've all been there where you've painted a lot of miniatures and you've put the colour away and you've cleaned your brush, you're on to the next colour, and as you paint the next colour, you see that you've missed part of the colour previous. And you're like, ah! So at least if you're painting all the same pose, you kind of you get everything. It's like, and then you can go. You're still on the same colour. You can go back. But yeah,
even then, I end up. I don't know about you, but I always end up with a painting table full of all of the paints for pretty much everything. And I'm so messy. I don't know how. Maybe this is something to try and relate to Stu. How do you keep your painting table tidy? Because I'm always going back to something I've missed, or topping up something, or I've chipped something off somehow, or I've missed something. I just end up with a mess. I don't know how people deal with that commissioning. I don't know whether you're the same.
What he said? I keep forgetting that you can't hear Stu. I was waiting for you to answer.
Basically, there's probably people joining the stream after that just think I hate Harry and I'm ignoring everything he said.
What he said was he was asking, and I used to have this problem, Harry, but now I'm not so bad. I'm quite tidy. He says, how do you not end up with a desk just full of everything, all your paints out because you're just getting stuff out, and how do you keep your desk organised and tidy?
You assume it is. No, it is. Just paint racks and things. Trying to have things within a logical reach. I'm lucky. I've got a dedicated space. I need it for work. So my table is
this is my rack
6x4 with a sort of L cut out. So I've got a lot of space.
That's his rack system.
This is my attempt at organising stuff. I've got it all labelled, right? It's all labelled with each individual paint.
But there's nothing in them.
That's white.
There's nothing.
That's white.
There's no paint in them, Harry.
Because they're all on my painting table. They're all out all the time. It's just there's no.
You don't need to ask Stu. You don't need to ask Stu. I can tell you this. Put your paints away, you scruff.
Well, I guess because I paint, I don't actually have, like, some people have their own, like, hobby room where they sit and paint and go off and do it. I kind of paint most days.
Yeah.
And it's in front of the TV. The girlfriend sat there on the sofa, and we both watched something together. And I sat there painting on a little painting table of my little child's table. Yeah. And so having loads of paint stored away just seems impractical because I'm doing it every day.
So you haven't got like a designated painting desk or area?
Well, I mean, I could take over the desk that I'm on right now in the spare room, but I just
you don't want to be antisocial.
Yeah, sometimes.
Give it time, mate. Give it time.
Sometimes
I'm allowed in the man cave. Yes.
But sometimes I want to, do, like, watching the YouTube videos or whatever. Sometimes I'm happy just watching Netflix and chatting. So yeah, that's the reason.
Yeah. I suppose it is harder. I mean, I've got this. I'm quite lucky that the garage is now my man cave. So this is where everything is. I've got all my paints.
Don't get me wrong. This room is absolutely full of. This is my, like, shelf there with all the stuff on it.
That's quite clean. It's not normally that clean, my desk.
No, but that's nice. Yeah, you've got, like, all of my crap is in here, but it's just I paint downstairs.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's have a look. So we have Jasmine has sent us a question in, and it's a bit of a fun one. So Jasmine says, if you had to be one character from Middle Earth, who would you be and why? So I'll start with you, Harry.
If I had to be, or who I'm most like.
If you could choose to be a character from Middle Earth, if you could choose to step out of the life of the life you have now and step into the life of a character within the Tolkien universe, who would it be?
Well, someone like Merry, I think. Merry. I'd quite like to be Merry. Yeah,
Merry?
A hobbit. It's got to be a hobbit. I mean, if you want to be anything other than a hobbit, there's something wrong with you, I think. Maybe an immortal elf or something like that, but. but I don't fancy living forever, flouncing around in the trees. So I think a hobbit, normal lifespan. Yeah, you're a bit short, but it's all
Smoking and
relative.
drinking.
There, isn't it? So no, merry food,
merry,
the simple life. Why not?
What about you, Stu?
What was his answer?
He said merry.
The same.
The same.
I had no idea what his reason was, but the same.
So he said because he likes drinking, he likes eating.
That is actually right. The reason, yeah.
Pretty much the same. He's my favourite hobbit. He's not as depressed and serious as Frodo. He's not as slightly challenged as Sam in some ways. He's not as silly as Pippin. I think he's the cool one out of the four. And yeah, I wouldn't have to worry about my post-lockdown belly if I was a hobbit.
I don't know who else.
Also, it'd be freeing not to have to wear shoes, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no shoes. Yeah, free your feet. Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to go on the odd adventure. I suppose I'd like to be go and do some cool stuff. I think I'd have to do. I'd get bored. I'd get bored of eating
already. Toriel, Bold, Gold, Glorfindel, Gollum. I don't know who would want to choose Gollum.
That's Sean.
Skullmunch.
Yeah,
that's an odd choice.
Sean, he's an odd fella. Sean, he's an odd fella. Tom says, I think Sloan and I are the Master and Alfred. Who is which? That is the real question. See, you know what? I think if I would have answered before you guys answered, I probably would have went for someone like Aragorn or Legolas. But you've talked me into wanting to be a hobbit now.
I mean, I don't want to be honest, I don't want to go and fight. I don't want to go riding the countryside. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I might reluctantly be courageous if forced to.
Yeah.
But you know, I think the choice, the simple life. Yeah.
I think the life of a hobbit. You've taught me into it. I'm down with that. I'll live in a hole in the ground, just eat, drink, and be merry. Literally.
Actually, I'd say Bilbo, but Bilbo seems a bit lonely. I don't know why.
I think Bilbo. Yeah. I think young Bilbo alike, old Bilbo is a bit annoying.
Yeah.
I think he'd be a pain in the backside, wouldn't he?
We'll all get there, Steve.
Oh, I'm there, mate. I'm there. Completed it. Justin says Ayama. Johan says Iluvatar. And Ross Tomlin says that the guy who lights the beacons. Which one? Not the one who lives on his own on the mountain. Just with one match he's got. One match. He lives on a mountain in a tent. He's got one match.
Just imagine the journey he has once he gets that match damp as well.
Yeah.
Again.
Jeez.
I knew I shouldn't have left it outside.
A follow-up to Jasmine's question is, if you were a warrior, what would your weapon of choice be? Personally, I would go for an assassination-style half-moon curved blade that would fit around my hand. Then again, Villanelle's hairpin is awesome. Jasmine, I think you need to speak to some people that you've considered this. The door's always open. You know, just vent. It's fine. Who would you? What about you, Harry? If you were a warrior, what would your weapon of choice be?
I think some sort of axe. But I think I would specifically, probably not an axe, but an Eastern halberd.
Oh.
Because then you've got
keep
pike,
them away.
You've got axe, you've got pick, you've got swinging, you've got the whole lot, and it's also a good walking stick.
What about you, Stu? What would your weapon of choice be?
You can't beat a cool sword, can you?
Yeah.
I think it couldn't go much further than a cool sword. Though if I was still merry, you're getting a bit limited with your cool swords, there, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. If we're hobbits, our swords aren't going to be very cool. So I'd probably go with an elven bow or something like that.
A bow.
So when you two are pulling your swords out to fight me after we've had a pint, I'll pull my bow out.
This D&D party is not going to do very well.
I do like Gimli's walking axe, or like a Gandalf staff, Gandalf the White Staff or something. Anything that's practical when you're not fighting, that would be nice.
Or I'd have a Urukai ballista in my garden.
Blonde, just a blonde.
Let's have a look. So, Fly Mammal, Ruth, how you doing, Ruth? She said she'd be Radagast. I actually seen your cosplay of Radagast on my own in the forest, looking after animals. That's a good shout, that actually, isn't it? Radagast.
Eating mushrooms.
Yeah.
not give up on personal hygiene.
Literally not knowing what day of the week it is. Dan says he'd be Imrahil. Blood of the Numenor. All cool. None of the kingly responsibility. And Nicholas Gardner would have an elven hand and a half sword. Bradley C. Bradley Cobden. He would have a catapult troll. Tom says, I'll just take a loot and bard it up in the background. Let's have a look. Where are we? What's better than one sword? Two swords, says Alex Kaiser. GW logic, +1 attack. Damien says, Steve couldn't type after a couple of beers the other night. He's not hitting anything with a bow after a pint. I wouldn't want to hit him, Damien. They're my drinking partners, aren't they? Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. What would you have, Damien? What would your weapon be? So we've got a question from Michael Haskell. We're getting towards the back end now. Michael says he's got the lovely Thranduil on Elk model, which is my favourite model in the range. Tauriel, Legolas, and some of the new Mirkwood Elf Rangers, all still on their boxes. Thranduil is such a lovely model, though I need to seriously consider a Halls of Thranduil army. Any thoughts around what sort of options I should consider for it to be reasonably competitive at, say, 700 points? What do you think, Harry? I know I don't think any of us are competitive players, but I think we have a fair idea how the game works.
I would say open it up to the chat personally, and take their opinions on it. Although I have spoken to people about Thranduil Halls before. I think Jason Mountain, he's a very good Thranduil Hall player and
a legend.
Yeah, and a legend indeed. He recommended Thranduil on foot, which I was surprised by, and lots of a number of Palace Guard around him, and Legolas, and then I don't know what else. Yeah.
What about you, Stu? What's your knowledge of Thranduil's Halls?
Limited, so I'll say I'll completely agree with whatever Harry just said, even though I can hear it. No, I've only even played them once actually.
Okay.
So played against them once, never played with them. So limited experience at all. So you wouldn't my views wouldn't be worth a lot to you.
I've played them quite a bit, Michael. The first thing I would say is get some Lake Town survivors to ally in with them. That goes without saying. But if you didn't want to do that, if you just wanted to go pure, definitely pretty much what Harry said. So you want to make the most out of the buffs that the army's got, because they will put you in good stead in game. The Palace Guard in and around Thranduil. If you bring the Cav, I'm not a fan of the Cav, but I've seen them work quite well again in and around Thranduil. I don't think I would start with Thranduil on foot. I think I would put him on his elk, but I think that's preference, just for the mobility more than anything.
Like I say, I'd put him on the elk because A, it looks cooler. B, I learned that apparently cavalry, heroes with cavalry is always a much better thing, and I agree from experience. And Damien says Mirkwood Elves, lots of Palace Guard, especially with spears, not very many rangers, a couple of Cav Thranders with all the toys. Yeah, all the toys. I can't remember quite what you have to upgrade him with to get.
So basically,
sword for
you get the sword, you get the circlet to get.
He gets a crown of some sort, doesn't he?
Yeah, you get the circlet of kings. And I think he follows on that. Does he go with a banner or circlet of kings? Definitely max out Thranduil. Get everything you can get on Thranduil, because you'll need it all. And I would definitely try and get a banner in there as well. At some point, you're not going to roll a 6 with your elves, and they're not going to hang around. That if you're fighting something at strength 4, you need a banner, mate. You need a banner. And there's a lot of fight for out there now.
There you go. It says Alex Kaiser says run only 6 Palace Guards, utilise those cheap cav. Armoured elves are the key to the list. Take Legolas over Tauriel. Don't bring Ranger captains. Thranduil is a must-have, and always give it the extra blade. Yeah, the extra blade is the one I know of. Yeah. Thranduil on foot as well, says Justin. Just load the army with Palace Guard and put Legolas on a horse, and you're good to go.
It's a good list. It's awesome with Lake Town. I played it with Lake Town. It's really, really good. But yeah, we're coming towards the end. Stu, is there anything that you'd like to shout out to people? No holds barred. It could be anything. If you're selling an old lawnmower or anything, Whack it on.
Well, yeah, if you haven't already, if you are new to Out of the Frying Pan podcast, if you haven't checked out, come give us a listen and find us. You can easy to find on any of your social media by searching Out of the Frying Pan. We do host on Podbean, but you can get us on any of your kind of major RSS feed providers. So you can get us on, obviously on iTunes and Spotify, etc. Yeah. And look at our we got a Facebook group. It's quite small, but it also means that you don't miss information that you often do in some of the bigger groups. So head over there. And check out my painting page as well. So Miniature Realm Studio. There's lots of stuff on there. It's obviously not just Middle Earth stuff, but I have a look over there. But primarily come over and listen to our podcast.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get you on again, Stu, when sound isn't an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what about yourself? Yeah, what about yourself, Harry? Is there anything that you'd like to shout out or?
Well, I would actually highly recommend Stu's podcast. I haven't listened to the latest episode, but I would recommend it. I really enjoyed it. Every episode so far, it's been good fun. It's very different to what I do and what the Green Dragon do, which is really good. I think we've all carved out a little bit of our own niche in a way. I'm kind of interested in gaming, but not anywhere near the kind of competitive standpoint that the Green Dragon are at, and they're really good at what they do. And Stu and Dan and the guys and Sam have all kind of carved out their niche as being like beers and pretzel kind of gaming, which I love. And it's really interesting to see a new perspective on a hobby from people who are just getting into it and talking about different things. They had a cool episode discussing Lord of the Rings the other day, which I found both frustrating and really interesting to listen to, their reasons they like it and stuff. That's good. I would say listen to my podcast. But at the moment, it's taking an unusual shape. I did do one episode which from lockdown, but I listened to it. It was a lot of work. I'm happy to do another one, and I will do. But
do it.
It was a lot. Yeah, it's. I think I will do another one very soon. But it's just I'm actually doing a lot of other stuff at the moment, painting and videos. So keep an eye on my YouTube channel, Battle Games in Middle Earth, because I'll have a video of my terrain project that I've been working on.
Yeah, awesome.
Coming up, that should be in the next couple of days, actually.
Yeah, bro. Thank you guys for coming on the episode 1.
Thank you.
We got there in the end, and we did make it through, even though you guys can't. Well, you're all right, Harry. Stu, you're struggling. We'll get you on. We'll get you on again. 100%. We'll get you on, and we'll get Dan on at some point. And it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, I've had fun. This is nice just to chat to two people who I wouldn't normally get the chance to have a conversation with.
Yeah, it's been great fun.
And just talk about toys and painting and hobby and things like that. So I'm looking forward to it cracking on. And yeah, like I say, hopefully you guys will come back at some point. It'll be a lot of fun.
More than happy.
And we'll do it. And yeah, keep an eye out, guys. Check out the podcasts. These guys are awesome at what they do. And between us all...
I don't know why I bought this.
Between us all, we'll try and keep you occupied whilst we're all on lockdown, and then a little bit after that as well. So thank you guys, and
it's nice to have an evening of conversation that didn't really mention the C word.
Oh, I thought you. Oh, right. You know, it took me a second then. It took me a second. Well, that's it.
Still, you'll get it. You'll get it when you listen back.
That's what this is. It's just a bit of an escape, isn't it, from all the crap that's going on? But yeah. So I'm gonna sign off with the viewers, and I'll catch up with you two in a second. So thank you everyone who tuned into the chat. I apologize. It wasn't like the others.
Everyone, thanks for all your questions and stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. We couldn't get through everything. I do apologise, but there was a lot of people in. There was a lot of comments, which is fantastic. And I think going forward, I will work out a way of dealing with that in a better manner. But no, we're still learning. So thank you guys. I'll catch up with you two in a second. But bye bye everyone who's in the chat. Thanks for tuning in.